information can be found on the website of Medicines for Europe. Dr. Coens, thank you for joining us. What's wrong with these doctors?
They always bring a doctor along to have as the fool guy, don't they? And they always set me the hard task. You're right. As I said yesterday, it's going to need a partnership between all of us, and I'll take you the story through. The title they set me to answer for you today was, can we see a future without biosimilars? And the answer to that's pretty straightforward. Can we do without them? Well, my experience on the steering committee for the European Oncology Advisory Board on access to treatment was that we cannot do without them. It's as simple as that. So I'll explain. This is my world, and I don't think we can imagine a world of the future without biosimilars. I'm an oncologist, so my world is cancer. It's the world's top killer since 2010. It's got the most devastating economic impact of any disease in the world. It causes the highest economic loss of all the 15 major causes of death. It's about 17% of the healthy life years lost in Europe. It's 170 million years of healthy life lost to death and disability, and the economic loss is $2.5 trillion. Now, I'm not saying that cancer is the only important disease in the world, but managing the costs of cancer will be the model that we'll use to solve all our other funding problems. There's a cost to cancer, and that's why they always bring in oncologists to this meeting to have a go at. Now, if there's a cost to cancer, there's a cost to cancer care. And spending on medicines has always been seen as a negative, bad thing. But let's put that the other way around. This is not a negative thing. We're investing. It's a positive good because we're spending to fight the world's most important disease, its greatest killer. And that investment is paying back fantastically. We add a science paper to PubMed every minute. There's very good news for cancer. Worldwide survival's improving. Fastest in Britain, but everywhere you look, we're learning to do better. We're winning the war on cancer. When I was a young fellow, the average survival in Britain for a cancer patient was 1 year. It's now 10. We are doing 10 times better. We're winning, not losing. And half the benefit comes from what you do. And there's good news. To start with, we had very little weapons to treat these cancers. When I started, just a few, but look what's happened. And something remarkable has happened in the last few years. There's been such an explosion of innovation from that basic science research that we believe we're going to add 100 new cancer drugs between now and 2020. And Arnold's got to find the money for it. It's not just cancer, innovation in every group is rising. So congratulations to you all. Because that's the result of investment in exploration to find innovation. Now, when you succeed, you win this, the Nobel Prize. And it's amazing how short the link between blue sky science and the real world now is. So 3 decades ago, it was won for the discovery of the principle of production of monoclonal antibodies. And what's happened in those 3 decades? Something remarkable. It's turned from a medal into something we give to man. We've developed drugs for all these cancers, for neurological diseases, for inflammatory diseases, for so much more. And these have become essential medicines. This is rituximab. It halves the chance of your lymphoma returning. This is trastuzumab, the game-changing drug in high-risk breast cancer. It halves the chance of your tumor returning, increases your chance of being alive, 6 to 7% absolute. You can reduce disability in multiple sclerosis. You can turn off the heat of arthritis in minutes after an infusion. That's a thermal camera before and after. Patients know the benefits straight away. You can halve the chance of being hospitalized with inflammatory bowel disease, such that we now have had to shut beds on our wards in Britain because of the advances in pharmacology. And if you were that patient, isn't that an essential drug to bring you back to work? These drugs are transforming care. These are just examples where from the old to the new precision-targeted medicine era, we have more than tripled survival in advanced cancer. And the good news keeps on coming. At any one time, my specialty is the biggest beneficiary. There's at least 900 drugs in development for cancer. And I need that. Now, if you change the task they set me to said, biologics, can you do without them? The answer is clear. No, we can't. We need innovation to continue giving those gifts for mankind. So I can't imagine a world in the future of oncology without precision-targeted biologic therapies. We live in an exciting time. The theory is coming true, and I'll show you. At the millennium, the most important paper published in Cell, the most downloaded, the most read, the most cited, was produced by Hahnemann and Weinberg. And they said, cancer medicine, which deals with more than 200 different diagnoses, all that complexity is explained by the dysregulation of just a few control pathways in the body. And what does that mean? The whole diversity of cancer might be treated by a limited panel of concurrent targeted precision therapies. Where are we now? Well, at the moment it looks like this. Tell me, doctor, what have I got? I'm sorry to say you've got breast cancer. It's an anatomic diagnosis. Where are we soon? You've got breast cancer with this pathway deregulated. We think breast cancer is now 10 separate diseases driven by 10 separate pathways. Where are we heading? The trials have started. This is the first map of the Cancer Genome Atlas. It's been superseded. It's gone from 12 to 21. And it looks at the genetic alterations across different tumor types, which tells me which pathway is dysregulated. And then I look at the next column, and it tells me which drug to treat it with. And when you get this right, this is from a meeting just a couple of weeks ago, with 2 control steps put back in, we can make a high-risk HER overexpressing breast cancer disappear in 11 days. Disappear in 11 days. It's a fantastic time to be doing this. We're going to change medicine in oncology from an anatomic diagnosis to something we call a basket trial. Doesn't matter where your tumor is, what genome problem is driving it. And then we'll put it in the basket of that molecular diagnosis and treat it. And the first basket trials have reported. It's not future, it's now. Doctor, how will you treat it? Well, 3 key steps dysregulated. We think probably for the best control, we'd probably need 3 concurrent strategies to get durable cures of advanced disease. And that gives Arnold a trouble. Will my health insurance cover that? Well, the average cost per month of a new targeted drug is about $10,000 a month. I need 3 for a year. That's $360,000 a year. Just 8 cancer drugs from last year cost more than 6-figure prices. The median wage in America is just under $27,000. Some of these people will have to save for 6 or 7 years to buy 1 year of just that drug, just one of those drugs. So we're heading into trouble. We believe on our current path we cannot afford to win the war on cancer when the target is so close. We've got some problems. It's clear we've got more cancer to treat. The world is getting older, and cancer is primarily a disease of aging, with a peak age around 70 to 84. It's a wonderful thing we now live that long. So in our pathway group, looking at access to treatment, we had to model this. And it's very clear that in Europe, we can afford to age. What we can't afford in its current trajectory is the cost of each new generation of medical treatment, but that is our opportunity because there is something we can do about that. I can't stop you aging. And this risk is driven primarily by cancer medicine, which rises 5 times faster than any other class of medical treatment, which is why solving my problem helps solve the problems in rheumatology, neurology, infection. Just as I need a huge innovation fund, we hit the world's longest recession. It's a recession driven by debt, for which we do not want to add more debt. So when policymakers go on and on and on about health reform, how serious are they? Bankruptcy of health systems is a matter of less than 10 years away. And that's so real that it has to be dealt with. It can't be put on one side. And that's why health reform is discussed in every country. We think of it as an American problem, because America spent more than it earned on health year after year, building up debt that has to be paid back. But we share that problem in Britain, in France, in Germany, everywhere. All but one developed country in the world has built up debt to buy new treatments. We have a shared interest in the solution. But we live in difficult times, and the room for maneuver with finance is very, very slim. To maintain essential health services, our governments have borrowed and borrowed and borrowed. If the 2008 economic crash is a problem of debt, we haven't begun to address it. In the last 7 years, we have added as much debt as the 7 years before the crash. And that really affects patients in Europe, because there's going to be no new money even when we recover financially. And for every 1% decrease in government spending on health, it costs lives. For example, it leads to an 11% rise in the number of women dying during childbirth. And this explains why medical decision-making has evolved. Originally at these meetings, we focused on target-driven ideas. Tumor control, PFS, making a tumor shrink. As Arnold said, the last few years we've taught you evidence-based medicine, EBM. We focus on efficacy. Do you live longer? Overall survival. Do you live better? Quality of life. But that's now got to change. Because the EBM question, does this intervention make you live significantly longer or live better, is now out of date. We're now teaching something we call VBM, value-based medicine. And this focuses on not just effectiveness, but its value to the stakeholder. And value is not just money, it's time at home with your family, it's quality of life. Can you work? What sort of a person are you? The question we now ask is this worth doing compared with other things we could do with the same resource? The patient's time, the hospital's money, the nurse's time. In 2018, biologics worth $68 billion a year will lose sales protection. Even if we got only a 20% discount from biosimilars for these, this would give the world a $14 billion annual health fund. If we manage 30%, we get 21. If we can push them down to 40, it pays back $28 billion. And what does that mean to me? Remember what a blockbuster drug is, a drug that generates annual sales of at least $1 billion. 40% means the question that I really want for the future. What could I do with 28 free blockbuster drugs for the world? I could do a lot. The WHO has made it very clear to me. Biologic drugs are now essential medicines for the world that we must provide to the world at affordable prices. It's the definition of the Affordable Medicines Act. The essential drugs list now includes biologics for the first time. 3, filgrastim, trastuzumab, rituximab. These are drugs that either enable curative therapy with big impact or delivers it themselves. And we now have to provide those drugs for the world. The WHO tells me in its article, More Health for the Money, the leading cause of inefficiency in healthcare is the underuse of generics and paying more than necessary for medicines. It tells me something useful that will help Arnold. A biosimilar is similar in terms of quality, safety, and efficacy, which are the 3 critical attributes for choosing a drug. They tell us they're similar. They tell us we have a moral duty. They tell us to use a more expensive version of a drug is irrational, inappropriate, improper, and incorrect. The only drug that works is a drug we can afford to give people. There are 196 countries in the world. The trouble is that just 7 of those 196 countries consume 75% of all the world's biologic drugs, leaving 25% for the 189 countries left. The unmet need in the world for cheaper biologics of good quality is unbelievably significant. Biosimilars offer us a reward to world health that will be substantial. And that's why we have a common interest between all of us here, patients, their advocates, physicians, pharmacists, pharma industry, and payers in the success and the future of biosimilars. Our immediate target is very clear, that I want to see at this meeting next year. Together, we've got to research, develop, trial, approve biosimilars to fulfill the WHO Essential Medicines Directive. I need 1 down, 2 to go. There's your challenge. So biosimilars, why are they so important? I've explained. I can't imagine a future world without them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Corns, for showing us the importance of our healthcare system. Can I ask the presenters to come up to the stage? So we have some time for a lot of questions from the audience. We will have someone who's going around with a microphone. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and someone with a microphone will come to you.
Always say, you may have noticed a lot of us here have grey hair, and this is particularly a problem for the younger ones. So if you're under 30, you get priority in asking questions. Very important. It's the future we worry about here, not the present.
Who does?
Can we take a microphone down there?
Oh, that's Dorfin. Hi, Dorfin, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. But I'm not under 40. But that's why I raised my hand.
In mind, if not in physical characteristic.
First. First, some information. On infliximab, in Norway, we got 70% discount. And we have used it for 2 years, and it's, nothing has happened. The patients are very well treated. And we have changed from Remicade to Remsima, and in February this year,